A siege rework is potentially on the cards. I never thought I'd see the day. Just having a look at the CA's little blog post here, and I just wanted to go through what is going on. I'm obviously delighted. I made my views very clear on what I thought of sieges not too long ago in Why Sieges Suck. So I'm really happy that maybe some of the feedback has been listened to, and there could be some actionable things coming on. I'm really delighted about this. This is honestly the Christmas has come early for me, basically. Having a look through as well, we're just going to dive straight into what the siege rework is, what's going on, and check out what they've got. So removal of pocket ladders. Yes, they've changed the name from what we've all affectionately dubbed them as. The biggest change that we'll be focusing on the most in this update is the removal of so-called pocket ladders, which allowed most infantry units to pull a siege ladder out of nothing and climb the walls of a settlement. In the Proving Ground, this is not to be the case, and the AI, of course, will need to rely on different tactics to overcome the defences of a well-fortified settlement. Why we changed it? There are two main reasons. We want to introduce a fundamental change on how siege works in the game. Gameplay and immersion. Total War always strives to depict battles in a realistic way, and yes, in our world, dragons and giant flaming heads are all counted as realistic. All projectiles are physically simulated. Shields are providing protection only from the front. Types of hit reactions are based in relation to the impact force of the attacker and the mass of the defender. Even though it's not perfect, there are many more aspects which can be improved. We believe that the ability to pull a huge ladder out of your nothing can be quite immersion breaking for the players and takes away from the more strategic planning of the battle. In addition, this makes walls almost obsolete and allows enemies to bypass them with ease, whilst making defending the choke points inside the settlement the obvious choice. This is not how we want sieges to feel. And 100%, I couldn't agree more. This is exactly what I was kind of harping on about in my previous video about why sieges suck. Just being able to pull any kind of ladder out of anywhere, infantry just being able to scale the walls wherever they choose, was just bad gameplay design. And I'm really happy that they're finally adding, an actual sort of a potential sort of fix for it, because with these kind of proving ground things, there's always it's always a bit of a beta. It's not going to be for sure added to the game. I remember in Warhammer 2 when they had the proving grounds before, and I don't think a lot of things were actually added from that, but that's going way back in time. But it's really good to see that they're actually trying this. That's the main thing. They're trying this. This is good. These changes will make your strategic decisions much more important and have you plan your approach or defense of a siege more carefully. And if you don't like them and prefer to get to your slaughter faster, you can always turn the pocket ladders back on in the options menu. Just make sure to do that before you actually get in the battle. Okay, so you can just you can toggle it. Okay, interesting. Sure, lets people who do like the pocket ladders keep the pocket ladders. Fair enough. Siege equipment rebalance, what we changed and why we changed it. The removal of pocket ladders requires a ton of other changes to make sure the game functions without them. The siege equipment availability has been rebalanced, and players will now be able to field more siege towers and battering rams in siege battles to compensate for the lack of ladders. Stats like speed and durability of that equipment have also been changed to make them more effective at their intended functions. In addition, we are changing the way siege attrition works and turning it into a linear progression, making it be stronger and stronger with each consecutive turn a settlement remains under siege. Okay, that's cool. I like those changes. I like the sound of that. So hopefully, it's meant to, I suppose with the siege attrition, it's meant to sort of represent kind of starvation and lack of food, and that's why your soldiers are kind of getting killed because of that. So it's good to see that that done. Let me just accept that privacy policy. How will these changes affect you in-game? Players will now need less manpower to construct siege equipment, which means it will be more readily available when sieging settlements. On the other hand, settlements are going to be a tad less susceptible to siege attrition in the early stages of the siege, while taking less overall turns to finally succumb to it. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think that's a good idea. Because it was always a bit silly seeing, the instant attritions and things like that happen. But Yeah, that's cool. Defensive adjustments. We adjusted the stats of defensive towers and gates. Towers will now be slightly deadlier but have a much shorter range, whilst gates will be more durable when it comes to attacks from regular and some monstrous infantry, but less so against battering rams. That's good. I really wanted this particular change, with towers being slightly deadlier but having a much shorter range. I think that's great. It turns them into an objective. It makes them something worth fighting over, like in the previous kind of Total War iterations. You'd have your troops defending the towers, and like you, the defender could also fight over the towers. The offender could hang back and not immediately start taking tower damage. It was all a bit of a mess, really. So towers now being deadlier but with a shorter range is exactly what I wanted. I think it will turn it into an objective which you can fight over, as opposed to the sort of immediate damage dealer that it is. I find most of the sieges these days is all about just positioning myself in a place where I can not get hit by towers. That's like the entire game, is to try and find like the weird little angles where you won't get attacked by towers. Now, hopefully with this change, that could be different. Interesting. Why we changed it? Towers currently feel quite annoying for the attacker. Absolutely, they absolutely do, when they start shooting immediately after deployment, leaving no room for maneuvers or executing strategic attack plans, while the gates feel like they can easily be breached by mundane infantry, making specialised equipment like the battering rams obsolete. Yep, 100%. Yep, that's all. I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. How will these changes affect you in game? These changes will allow you to maneuver outside a settlement you are attacking without being harassed, or open up an opportunity for you to batter it with artillery more easily, whilst also making the defender less helpless against direct, fast infantry attacks. That's good, because it's going to make siege weapons, more. You don't have to just stick a lord in front of your siege weapons to sort of draw tower aggro. Siege weapons should outrange towers. That's a well-established Total War norm. Unless, of course, they've got the kind of upgraded towers. And to be fair, if an AI or the player has made a significant investment into their towers, so they've got maybe like tier 5 towers or something like that, then yeah, sure, they can duel with artillery, but they're just the normal regular towers shouldn't be able to do that. Battle AI improvements, what we changed. We can't just remove pocket ladders without teaching the battle AI how to play without them. So for these proving grounds, we have fixed over 50 issues related to how the battle AI plays or reacts in certain situations, both on the attacking and the defending side in sieges. And some of those are not completely related to the pocket ladders. These changes will be present even if the pocket ladders are turned on from the options menu. Okay, truth be told, I can't really comment on that. I don't know what these particular 50 issues are, but yeah, cool. Fixing issues, always a good thing. Why we changed it? Battle AI has always been tricky to get right, but that is most obvious in siege battles. Yeah, absolutely. And we are really trying to make it play better and react to the player's actions in a more realistic way. We are not saying that we have fixed the battle AI, but hopefully with these improvements, it will behave a lot more convincingly and offer a more interesting challenge. Cool. No, truth be told, yeah, I'm glad that they're kind of setting expectations there. Because I don't think we'll ever get a quote unquote kind of fixed battle AI from Total War Warhammer 3. I don't even know if the engine is kind of capable of it at this kind of point. But yeah, like progressive improvements and changes, always nice. How will these changed affect you in game? You made a mistake there, CA. These changes will offer less weird behavior from the battle AI during sieges and allow it to be able to play the game without the use of pocket ladders. Okay, cool. Siege map improvements, what we changed. With this update, we are also starting an initiative of reworking old siege maps to make them play and feel better. For now, we have only done 3, one for the Skaven, Empire and Orcs, but there will be more to come in the future after getting your feedback on them. Okay, that's really cool. I'm happy that they're making improvements to siege maps. Obviously, I'll have to actually play them to be able to comment on them to see whether they are any good. Siege maps are often feeling a little too cramped with little space to maneuver, both inside and outside the settlement. Absolutely, totally agree with that. With our rework, we are looking to open up these maps a bit more, allowing more approaches to the victory points, as well as wider spaces for larger forces to engage one another. Great, that's exactly what I wanted, because at the moment, a lot of the time when you're kind of moving infantry around in within a settlement, you can only fit one sort of unit in there, or one sort of like one unit of spearmen would be able to fit in one kind of like little corridor, and it kind of makes all the spacing between the unit really strange and janky, and sometimes they just break entirely and start walking around. It's pretty bad. But hopefully with some of these kind of siege map improvements coming in, maybe that could change it. That sounds pretty cool. What's cooking? Everything we have listed here are just the first steps for us to get sieges where we want them to be, and we are looking at this as a long-lasting effort to improve the game. In the future, we have a wish list of possible options to explore, such as introducing ladders as a new constructible siege equipment. I think they absolutely should do that. Ladders do belong in the game. They shouldn't have been totally removed. I think a constructible siege ladder is totally fine. We'd be happy with that. It's just the current iteration of them just being able to, boost them out of themselves to stick them up on the walls and invalidate any kind of defense you're building. Rebalancing the way garrisons work and what units are available to them for all factions, changing the way that's actually big. That would be really cool. I mean, I would still love to see, some way of us being able to choose what units we want in our garrison. I don't know why we can't have that. Because at the moment it's still, you could obviously just hire a lord and stick them in there, but the way, especially on the harder difficulties, the way that would impact, you would certainly lose a hell of a lot of money. It'd be really nice if you could just tailor your garrisons a little bit, so you could use units which you actually wanted to use, rather than having a kind of set group of troops. It'd be interesting to see what they want to do in terms of those balancing. Some races should absolutely have much stronger garrisons than others. Like, the dwarfs should have much stronger garrisons than the greenskins. I think that's absolutely fine. But it would be nice to be able to actually, especially in these kind of more, what's the word for it? These more sort of civilized, defensive factions, they really should have more of a way to tailor what's going into their garrisons. Cool. Sorry. Changing the way the building of towers or barricades work, as well as more battle AI and pathfinding upgrades. Okay, cool. I mean, personally, I would just, I think these should, the building of towers and barricades, me personally, I think they should just be right at the beginning of the map. There's no, you can't start constructing during a fight. You have to kind of pick where you want to put you're given a set amount of supplies, and you stick your barricades and everything down, your towers down, and you kind of go from there. I'm not a big fan of building during battles. I think it just kind of detracts from the overall Total War experience. Personally, I think they should just either have them as a like a preliminary thing in a siege, not or just get rid of them altogether. That would be my sort of personal take on it. Last but not least, we understand that sometimes a lot of us just want to keep painting the campaign map in our chosen colour and not waste time with sieges, so we are already hard at work at polishing out, with the heavy use of hammers and axes, that auto-resolver and making it function properly. Okay, so updates to the auto-resolve. Cool. I mean, personally, I'm really happy. This is my first sort of peruse of the notes. This is a good step in the right direction, I think. I'm really happy that this is being even sort of discussed. Something which I was often kind of saying to the Creative Assembly people who I do speak to is it'd just be great if you guys gave the fans something just to say that we appreciate it's an issue, and we're looking into it, but that didn't materialize for ages, and now here it is. Now here it is. I'm really happy with this. Hopefully hopefully it'll be good. So it starts on the 24th of July to the 7th of August. I'll absolutely be playing that and just seeing what the story is. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Hopefully it'll be really good, but you never know. You never know. Anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Blake, delivering my take. See you all later. Bye-bye.